Kai,
Hello.
so good to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been a couple days.
It's been a couple of days. That's right.
Hi, Guy. I'm
Hello.
Elizabeth. Nice to
Nice
meet
you, Elizabeth.
Yeah,
Yay.
good to meet
Nice
you.
to finally meet you.
Yeah.
It's good to meet
great.
you on our 12-hour event here.
I hear it's going really well.
It is going well, and at the same time, to be honest, we are in the process of finding out what we are really doing here.
Mhm.
Sounds like my life.
We had some powerful encounter with some friends from the Ukraine who just shared their own impression to defend the country and the necessity to defend the country, and even one sentence of one of them. He said that he was asked if he hates Russians. He said, "No, I don't hate them, but I will kill them.
And kill them with love.
I will kill them with love." And this is sentences that you have to take.
That's intense.
Yeah. And we talked also about the danger of spiritual bypassing.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the limits of dialogue. One of the Ukrainian friends, a woman who is now taking refuge in Vilnius, in Estonia, said that Lithuania, she has a training in nonviolent communication. But she said, now I have a more developed view on nonviolent communication. So just the intensity of the realness of where we are.
Right.
And if I may introduce you to our audience, Kai Sengstock is the founder of a dialogue form that is very popular around the world. It's called circling. And we had a couple of conversations recently where I learned a lot also about the capacity that what you're doing, which is, if I may say, to hear the other, to be aware of the world others are holding. And I think that's very much what we are in the midst of learning to do here right now, as we are holding this event for the Ukraine.
And also, how do you take a stand? Like, we're talking about the open society or dialogue process and taking a stand to defend, to say there's something that's actually worth standing for. So how can dialogue be used in a situation where we're flattening things out or just coming to some kind of mutual accommodation is not in some ways not okay. It's not enough.
Yeah.
So how do we, what does this mean? And I think our audience right now is really interested in engaging and really excited about the potential to engage.
Right. That's great. Okay. I have to say, just hearing you sharing some of the things that some of the Ukrainians were saying, right? Especially when that you heard that person say that, I don't hate the Russians, but I'll kill them. I was like, that just hit me like a wave of just imagining I don't even know if I could imagine it, but like that paradox, and then the paradox that you just brought in there about, like, on one level there's dialogue and there's all this possibility with dialogue, but when you put yourself in this situation, right, when that's not enough, where does it leave that, right? How do you take a stand in these directions? These are all I feel like this gets down to the core of maybe even beyond my own humanness in some intense way.
Interesting that you say that, because I think one of the things that we've been doing is a lot of collective meditation and kind of guided meditation and global social witnessing and inquiry, whatever, for the last few hours. And I think part of the idea was, can we build a container, a container of humanness and consciousness that can hold these contradictions somehow, so that they synergize and integrate in a way that we don't know how it will work. And not to create false reconciliation or like everything's okay, but actually to come to something creatively that maybe none of us can hold, but can be held in a bigger space.
Totally. Hey, hearing that, it's, what, like a kind of a koanic question I've asked myself, been circling for like years, because a lot of circling has to do with, I consider it, if you boil it down, it's just the practice of opening your heart. And I've asked myself this, of like, and this takes the question deeper of is there any place where it's actually good, it's better to not open my heart? Like, is there a situation where it's like, it'd be a good thing if I close my heart here? And I think I just heard in some of the things that you were saying that you've gotten from this, what's opening up here is, in some level, like, I would imagine the Ukrainians, in not hating the Russians, but killing them, in some sense, it speaks to this sense of that it seems always possible, right? That probably even if I'm killing someone, which is hard to even bear the thought of doing, I think it seems possible that your heart can still be open. And if there's a challenge that I hear implicitly in the fact of our meeting, right, it seems like it at least puts us right in the center of that koan in some sense.
There's one sentence that I missed to tell you when this friend said this, I will kill them. He added one sentence that I will do it with love.
God, that's so intense. It gives me chills.
Taras.
Yeah.
Taras.
Taras
This
is here.
Taras Nazarov. He said this.
Oh, wow.
He's down here again. Hi, Taras. I didn't see that you were here, so sorry.
Hi, Guy. Thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Your practice of circling helped me a lot to grow personally and as a community. I started doing something that you developed a couple of years ago, and that helped people that surrounded me to accept everything more thoroughly, more deeply, including hard parts, including processing things like aggression or hatred. And it's not just that. I think it's a combination of contemplative practices that are 1,000 years old. But I think what you packaged in very social way, so the contemplative practices usually are very personal and very individual. Circling, I perceive it as a manifestation of similar practices, but brought up to the system. And that's what I feel we need to do. It's externalization of single integral work to multiple integral work, where 5 people get together, 10 people get together, and you collectively process those very hard feelings. So I really appreciate your work. Thank you so much for what you're doing. It helped me personally.
Wow. Thank you for saying that. Received, big time. Received. I, when you talked about collectively processing these kind of like intense human things, right? Aggression and anger and all of that. It's circling in you could say that the intention of circling, what we're actually practicing when we're circling, is, and it goes along with like opening your heart, but more essentially, it's basically practicing how profoundly we can be with what is. That's the virtue of it, right? Of like, how profoundly can we just be with what's actually here without fixing it, without solving any problems, without doing anything. Like if aggression is there, like how deeply can we actually touch it and look at it and be with it, right? No matter what's happening. And I think it's that openness that that discloses more than we're always more than we ever could conclude or think that we are. It's always more than I can ever conclude or think that it is. And there's something about meeting it with that openness that oftentimes things kind of on their own in surprising ways resolve or deepen or work through or something like that, right? So what's this, can I ask you, what's it been like today for you?
I have very little sleep over this 90 days, and I'm coming to peace with that my body is functioning in very different mode, and people who work with me, we are on the edge of how we can function. So it's a combination of physical exhaustion that you cannot let yourself go, because almost every time there are things that are very important. Mostly human lives are on the edge, on the question. What I do and few other people who are in our group, we connected 24/7 to international networks of support in Ukraine. So essentially I'm getting calls at 4 a.m. in the morning. Today I started this call at 3:50 by our time. And often there are calls at midnight and so on. So my life now over this 90 days is what I'm noticing, what I'm feeling. It's a surreal dream, which is, I couldn't think that that's possible. It wasn't even in the movies or science fiction books, because no one can prepare you for that. And I was describing before that how it happened. I was looking at my mom on the smartphone. She's in Kyiv, and she was dropping the smartphone and saying, "Son, I cannot speak with you anymore because rockets are hitting the ground and I need to run into the bomb shelter." And I was thinking that that would be the last time I see my mom. And then phone dropped and she disconnected. And then I spoke with her. She's alive. We were talking a couple hours ago. So it's fine in Kyiv. It's not under attack anymore. But that was the point where I understood that I cannot do anything that I did before. I'm a scientist, molecular geneticist, and I develop a mechanism to help provide food for climate change. Essentially, when we'll have serious effects of climate change, I do that for life. But when the war started, all of my interest, all of things that I do switched to war. And with this surreality, it's so bringing back to what I'm noticing, this dream, this surreal state, it's getting even more surreal every day. And I can be open about that. So now I'm organizing kind of a lot of things that relates to military help of Ukraine. So today I'm noticing that I'm responsible for organizations of some of the military operations, but we are started with medical help, with humanitarian help and other things. So this noticing the biggest surface level, it's continuation of surreality in just its acceptance of what is in this form. And I think adding to your notion of open heart and maybe some koan way of expressing that, I'm trying to balance between this ancient wisdoms of what Sufism brought or what different flavors of Buddhism brought. And I think this part with accepting war, it's where you need to balance between accepting what is in a way of what hard determinism teaches us. As a scientist, I don't believe there is a free will or anything similar to that. There is just hard determinism, and in that we're just accepting what is. There is no other way. But simultaneously, when war is happening, I know that I cannot sit still. So this feeling of surreality, that's what drives me. And simultaneously, when you there is no possibility of just sitting still. My contemplative practices disappeared almost. I cannot sit still for 10 minutes because I understand that this 10 minutes can be used for something that potentially save human life. So when I'm sitting on the chair and when I'm starting 5 minutes just breathing or contemplating, I know that I should disconnect from that. So that's been additional layer of what I'm noticing. Moments of clarity and contemplation happens like this when you remind what are you noticing, and now I'm kicking back and just trying to have this diffuse attention, but mostly attention is very focused on problems.
Right. So right now it just kind of started to get diffuse, which is rare, right? Just in bringing attention back to how you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel grateful to be a part of it with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I'm basically hearing you say is that every single moment, everything's at stake.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single moment, everything's at stake.
Accepting of death is being a daily practice for me. I started this practice way before the war, but now it became more important. And I hear that in many contemplative traditions, from Stoicism to Sufism to Buddhism, in different schools, that was one of the cornerstones of how you go through life. You imagine end of it all. You imagine death of yourself, of your closest people, of everything that you love, of everything that can feel kindness and connection. And that grounds you and that allows you to stay even more present. So I'm thinking about death multiple times during the day. I'm thinking about my death of my closest people, of my family, and that allows to breathe more deeply and be present.
Yeah. So basically becoming present to your own death, to everyone's death, and all the people that you care about their death. There's something about just doing that has you feel more present.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Is it like, can I ask you, what kind of a presence is it? Is it like a compassionate presence? Is it like a soft presence? What kind of presence?
It's presence of vividness. It feels that when I think about death and the moment when I contemplate it, imagine it very vividly, that I'm dying, or I'm seeing how my mom dying or my brother dying. I'm feeling that if it's not happening, the colors of the world are more vivid. There is a flavor to life. There is a lucidity that is not lost yet. So I can be more grateful for every next second that they're not dead or I'm not dead. So it brings deeper sense of life and presence and groundness after each moment of contemplation of death.
Wow. Well, when you said vivid, that's been my experience of you. Like, you've been incredibly clear and lucid and vivid. And so as you've been talking, I've just been like, I feel like everything has just gotten super, super crisp. Like the outlines of my hands are super crisp. Like all the feelings of my body are super, super, super clear and vivid. I feel totally here. And I'm just kind of imagining, God, that's got to be such an intense thing. Like, to be constantly faced with the death of all the people that you care about, or most of the people that you care about, and all the ones that you don't even know, that you in some sense are stepping into the responsibility and responding to, like, and to stop and to be in consideration of the temporariness of all of this, and the fatality of all of this, and the possibility of death of all of this. And something about that has you get in touch with this gratitude and this openness. And yet every single moment is an opportunity to respond. And here you are talking to us right now with such clarity and coherence. I'm feeling quite moved by you. Can I ask you, is, maybe it's a bit of a strange question, but are you feeling kind of, is there a sense through all of this where you're experiencing a kind of freedom?
Yes, that's a paradox that I started feeling from the very first days of war, on the background of atrocities and terror. And I don't know how you're familiar with what's happening, but there are multiple cases of like children rape, like under 1 year old children raped to death in front of their parents, and then their parents are killed. And there are multiple documented cases of that. So when you start processing it, you realize that that's something surreal on the level of Nazi Germany, or way worse. And now we get in more and more documentary evidence of that. So after the war, the world will be shaken to the last cell because of all of those things. And starting from the first days, I'm connected to people who are there on the ground, who take videos of how rockets hit the ground, how dismembered human bodies are just spread out on the streets of the city that I lived. So when you process that, it can quite be translated in words, similar way as psychedelic experience cannot be translated in words, or some deep contemplative experience. It's something ineffable, like I cannot explain you what I feel. But on the other pole of that, if there is other pole, if there are some dichotomy in that, there is a feeling of deep connectedness to the whole universe, because this feels like a pinnacle of humanness and presence. What's happening, it's as though the whole world is the organism, and here is the pinpoint of all attention, of all presence. And that presence is so lucid and vivid that it gives not just freedom, but energy. And it allows me to sleep 3 hours a night. It allows me to wake up and be connected to purpose and meaning so deeply that I've never been connected in my life. And this purpose and meaning drives me, and I believe will drive, because I'm personally, and people who I work with, we would want to rebuild that place, and we would want to rebuild the world, like the whole globe. We would want to create something where this is impossible, where atrocities like this, the wars like this on a global scale should be impossible. So this gives freedom. This also gives a lot of resolve and resilience and faith that it's possible. And it gives freedom.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Just to show of hands, it's like who feels like beyond moved right now? Just yeah. Because I think I asked you about freedom because it's really rare in life where the world configures in such a way such that there's really no option. Like there's the only choice that makes any sense is one thing, right? And so I'm hearing that your life has been a big presentation of that. But when you talked about what that you've been touching into, what I'm hearing is like the atrocities and all the things that you're realizing are the reality that you're being a part of, that you're participating in and seeing, touches in on as you talked about, something ineffable. But I also heard how it's affecting you is there's an inexhaustibility by what's happening, that something's coming through that something's showing itself. That is, you can't bring words to it. and it discloses something, something beyond it, something more than it, something universal. So in the midst of all of this atrocity, there's a glimpse of life, of the full picture of it, that's right here for you. And it's moving you. How are you doing right now in this moment? With us just sitting here together, and all of us sitting here with you.
I feel grateful to you, and through you to all the people who were responsive to all that happens there, because you don't have to, and many people can live their comfortable life in disconnection because it might never touch you. But there are so many people across the world that were compassionate and were responsive and were helping in different ways. And for that, I feel gratefulness every day. So now looking at all of you, I feel gratefulness. That's the biggest color in my palette now.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling grateful for you. Feeling grateful for you, big time. And like I don't know if I have any goosebumps left in me, and chills, and like I'm sweating. I notice I'm sweating. I feel like super, super, super close to life through you. So I just appreciate you just taking a moment with us and like sharing all of this so openly. Thomas, is it okay if we just open the floor, and I'd just love to hear people, anybody.
Absolutely, Guy. I completely hand it over to you. Please,
Okay, cool.
To do as you feel.
Yeah. Go ahead, and just anybody who wants to share how they feel impacted, what they're getting, what they're realizing. Just want to just open. The thing I was gonna do, I'm letting go. Let's just be with what's here. And go ahead, and there's a place down there to raise your hand. Just go ahead and click the hand so I can see you. Is there anything you want to share, Thomas or Elizabeth?
Sure. Yeah, you said beyond touched and grateful. Grateful to hear from Taras. Thank you. And also just it's the immediacy of what you're speaking to, and it just pulls something, toward you, toward the world, in a sense. There's a rawness here, and also an incredible love and gratitude. I think you wrote in an email this morning, Taras, something about the situation being terrible and amazing. And the more I hear from you, the more I understand what you meant. And there's something so deep about the recognition that the world, that life as the world are as it is is terrible and amazing.
Yeah. You know, one of the things is this is what I'm imagining. Some of you listening may be feeling is as I was talking with you there and I would want to respond, I was simultaneously in the experience of a literal inadequacy of how to respond, right? Because what you're experiencing is in some sense has been, it's so beyond my own experience that there's a quality of like hard to find words and a sense of inadequacy to be able to meet it. So it's something to bring words to this.
Okay, you have two hands raised.
Oh, I do. Oh, okay. Let's it's funny, I can't see them. Let's call on whoever's first.
John was first.
Do you have the gallery
I
view,
see it.
Guy?
I see it. I see the hands raised now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, what I want to add is my motto since Russia invaded Ukraine has been, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine, which is a line from a rock song in the 80s. So personally, I live in a state of both psychological and physical safety. I cannot possibly imagine what it's like to live in Ukraine. And I can't pretend that I share those feelings. To me, that is unrealistic. So personally, I'm fine. But I also live with the knowledge that the world is not fine. And right now, Ukraine is not fine. So I'm motivated to be part of this as a fundraiser for a cause that I've come to deeply believe in. And I personally think it's important that we all continue to feel fine, because if we are overwhelmed, we can't help as much. And our own circumstances for most of us are probably very good. So maybe I can't feel the emotion, but I can certainly contribute to a fundraiser, and I can attend a conference like this, and at the same time live with the awareness and be incredibly grateful for my own personal very good circumstances.
Yeah. Thank you. Is it Michael?
Yeah, thank you. I also want to thank you, Taras, for your sharing. It touched me deep in my heart. And I can very much relate to what you said, Guy, about the ineffability, about not being able to say, to speak to that. There is so much about the atrocities which is also unimaginable for me and ineffable. But what I want to share is when I heard you two communicate, Taras and Guy, there was this surface layer of the ineffable, of the no words, but there was a deeper layer where I felt something between you and jumping over to me. And what I noticed is that on a deep level, I felt your connection between the two of you, and then I felt this human, is it predicament, being human, what it all includes. And I'm very much aware what I'm feeling is my very way, and it's my history, it's my trauma and everything. but I'm also aware that on a very deep level, I understand you. I can't put words to it, but on this very deep level, I know what fear is like. I know what it's like to not know and to be helpless and what have you. And I know we all share this, and this. I know I'm searching for words, but what I really want to say is I'm hearing you here, and I felt it between the two of you, and I feel part of it in my own way.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything? Is there anything you'd like to say, Taras?
Yeah.
It feels that this work that we are doing now, it's the part of growth and maybe flexibility of us as humans, as presence, as consciousness, that maybe was due for a long time. And hopefully, like in this sort of networks, what Emerge does, Perspectiva does, what here we feel in, it's the phase transition to hopefully more connected collective consciousness that will help solve these big problems. And how I'm seeing that we emerged from, we don't know how, but our history is 30.7 billion years. And, you know, the physics started 13.7 billion years ago. Then chemistry started about 38 millions after that. Then geology started about a billion years after that. Then life, as we know, it started about 3.5 to 4 billion years ago. And it took us about whole billion to develop life from single cell to multicellular organisms. So we were just bouncing around in this primordial soup in the very complex environment, navigating all of those tasks that we couldn't solve as single cellular organism. And then we emerged as multicellular organisms. Then we develop, over that time, we develop ecosystems, we develop minds. And look what we're doing now. We're connecting over 10,000 miles just because we became multicellular. So the next layer of evolution would be we become multi-human, multi-personal. How it's going to happen? We're going to connect. We're going to be neurons in this network that is already happening. Like we are now this part of this mind. And I hope this will grow further. So we're going to have this presence that feels each other, that connects to each other, and that transfers both pain and beauty and love and kindness and unity the same way as we do it in the organism. And I feel that wars like this is something that threatens our organism, like cancer, and we need to develop cure for cancer. And this cure shouldn't be hatred or shouldn't be denial. It should be presence and attention and very thoughtful, wholesome healing of the whole organism, because we cannot survive otherwise, because there is a climate change and there are existential threats, there are Carrington events, there are nuclear powers and so on. So we need to outgrow our singularity, our countries, empires, you know, even things like EU. That's beautiful, but we need to be united humans, united life. And where this project should go, it might be united Earth, it might be united solar system, but then it might be united universe. That's my aspiration. That's what I want to work on, united universe. That's only the way how we can all connect and feel each other. And I hope that all of you can help us all, because there is us to work on this project.
This is, so I think basically what I think I just heard you say is a call to consciousness and to look and to lean in and to respond from that place. And I just want to say, just the way that you're being with us here, and for both the voluptuousness of your responsiveness to us and how clear that you're being, I think it's fair to say that we all feel a lot closer to what's happening and a lot more conscious. I think it's definitely fair to say that. Thank you. Is it Justin?
Yes. What I was present to when Taras was talking was that I was just present with him in the exhaustion, in the having to do, and all the things that must be done. There's a vibrancy to life that he's exuding. I went through grief, anger, outrage, even love. I passed through those things rapidly to simple presence being with him. And that vibrancy of life, as if all of those emotions are subservient to the presence where he is right now. There's this deep vibrancy of life that he was really thrust into. That was my experience.
If I may add to that, Taras, I'm just deeply grateful for what you are holding here for all of us. Because the way you're expressing yourself and the way you are holding these atrocities with this potential at the same time, like Guy said, I feel very inadequate to respond to that. But at the same time, I deeply appreciate what you're doing and also what you're pointing out, because I just very much agree with you. Coming together like we do in this right now, and I've never heard this word as you used it, multi-human. I just can see that. I just can see that something different is happening because we are meeting this way, and there's a potential for me to be directly connected to what you are going through, and hearing you expressing this changes me. And it changes us. And I don't know how, but I know it is significant, and it has to do with human culture. And I'm also grateful that you're pointing that out.
Me too. What can you remind me what time we're going till?
Ooh. I just looked at the clock. Technically 3 minutes, but you could take 7.
Okay, cool. We can start to wind this down. I just want to invite everyone just to take a deep breath and just let it out slowly. Just take another deep breath and let it out slowly. And take one more deep, full breath. And then even more on this exhale, just simply open your heart even more. You know, I as far as I can tell, we can only respond to what we can see, right? And if something, like what our attention does is, like when our attention goes on to something, right? Our attention makes distinctions. And the more distinctions that you have, the more you can see. And you can only relate to things that are distinct. And the more distinctions that you make, right, the deeper your attention is, and the deeper distinctions that you can continue to make. And there's something about that. What we're doing here is we're just bringing our attention to something. And what you've done is really help us focus our attention into a deeper and deeper level of what's happening. And I can feel so many different things popping in my attention, and the experience of my attention deepening. And if we just keep doing that, right, we're going to see more and more and more and more. And the more that we can see, the more we can respond to. And so I just appreciate just this opportunity just to see at a deeper level through you. I'm so grateful. I want to somehow get you my contact info. If there's any way I can be of service with you and be of support and talk anytime, I would love that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you and what you're doing here. I feel that presence and I feel that connection that I'm aspiring to for this maybe global human consciousness where we all can feel each other through kindness and love, because I believe there are four main things in love in the world that are important, and that's love, kindness, unity, and connection, and all of them are together. That all forms our collective presence and collective humanness, and maybe something that will put us even forward in some sort of bright and beautiful future.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Taras.
Thank you both very much. Mm.